Hi everyone. This fall, I'll be offering a new literature class titled Immigrant Voices in Modern Short Stories. As always, the short story is the focus. And we'll be studying 6 different short stories. This is a 6-week program starting September 18th, which is a Monday, 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. This class was specifically designed for Ollie Berkeley, so I'm particularly thrilled to be teaching it at long last. What happened is it was designed in early 2020, and I was supposed to teach it in the spring of 2020, and then the pandemic hit. All was canceled, and it'll be the first time that I teach it for the audience that I designed it for. So I am very, very excited. Why the short story? I've been focusing on the short story genre ever since I started classes to design classes for Ollie SF, and Ollie Berkeley since 2015 and 2018. Because this genre seems to be less known and less appreciated than the novel, and just not as widely read. In fact, a lot of people who are avid readers, do not read short stories. So one of the objectives of the class is to heighten your appreciation for that genre, which has a whole lot to offer and that I really love and I believe know quite well by now. You should think, in fact, about this course as a reader's appreciation class. This is how I like to describe the class nowadays after years of teaching the same type of class for Ollie. A reader's appreciation class is what that is. And to be able to appreciate our readings each week, the story that we'll be reading each week, the class revolves around discussion, which is not new for me. That's always how I prefer to do things. Discussion allows you to participate actively in your learning, and I really believe in this. I believe in establishing a dialogue with the participants so that they are active learners and not just passive listeners, which is why you should not expect straight lecturing here, though the online format and the number of participants, might require that I do straight lecturing at times, which then I will, but please expect class participation, class discussion, dialogue, exchange. All these words are really key to understanding how this class is designed and how it takes place. Of course, for those of you who prefer to listen, then speak, you have the right to remain silent. To guide our discussion, I'll be sending a study guide. It's just a bunch of questions on each of the story about 7 weeks ahead. Please don't think that you need to answer these questions in writing. You're not at all expected to. They're just a guide to help you read the story, maybe better understand it as you're reading it, and it will also help us launch the discussion each week. Now, what are we talking about when we say immigrant voices? Why is that in the title? It is because the 6 authors I chose, Hajin, Chitra Divakaruni, Juno Diaz, Daniel Alarcon, Edwidge Danticat, and Ayelet Tzabari were all born outside of the US, and they're all writers who chose to write in English as a second language. And this will provide one of the threads for the class and for our discussions. It is sometimes surprising that some would choose to write in English as a second language. It is often intriguing and almost always fascinating. And of course, each of these authors has a different reason why he or she chose English as their writing language. Another thing that many of the stories have in common, not all stories, but the vast majority of the stories we'll be reading, have a strong political component. We'll start with Ha Jin from China, week 1, and his fantastic story, Resurrection, which will take us under Mao's rule in communist China. A very chilling story and absolutely brilliant. When we read Edwidge Danticat, we'll learn about the terrible dictatorship suffered by the Haitian people under the dictatorship of Papa Doc Duvalier and his son, and the awful Tonton Macoute that terrified the country for years. When we read Daniel Alarcon's City of Clowns, we'll travel to Peru and we'll be in the midst of a civil war on the streets of Lima. And when we read Ayelet Tzabari, week 6, we'll be in Tel Aviv, living under missile attacks with her fantastic story, Poets in the Kitchen Window. I have to admit that I love each and every one of the stories that I selected. Of course I do. But I also find that they have something to say. They're not just gorgeous in terms of prose. They're not just interesting in terms of viewpoint and very strong in terms of voice, but they really have something to say and to teach us. When I taught the class that first and last time in the fall of 2021, most of us, myself included, did not know much, if anything, about Lima, Peru, about Haiti, about that history. And so short stories are a way to also get informed. Literature is a way to travel and transport us to territories and places and eras that we just are discovering for the first time, that we didn't know anything about, which is one reason why I love literature so very much. I hope to share my passion of it and of the short story genre September 18th, Mondays, for 6 weeks. And I hope to see you there. Thank you.